Welcome to the ninth episode of our Flutter GetX Masterclass. In this video, we are going to delve into the model view controller, which is MVC pattern, with hands-on example. We will create a to-do application to understand how to structure your Flutter projects using this pattern. Before we dive into the code, let's take a moment to understand what MVC is and why it's such a valuable design pattern for building Flutter applications. MVC stands for Model View Controller. It's a design pattern that separates your application into three interconnected components: model, view, and controller. Model handles the data and business logic, ensuring data consistency and integrity in a Flutter application. It defines data structures, handles the data storage, and performs business operations. View represents the user interface, focusing on how the application looks and feels. It's where you create widgets, layouts, and screens. And the controller acts as a bridge between the model and the view. It manages user interaction, processes data, and controls the flow of information between other two components. So, why should you use MVC in your Flutter application development? So MVC enforces a clear separation between data handling and user interface and the application logic. This separation makes your codebase more maintainable and less prone to bugs. As your application grows, MVC ensures that you can add new features and extend existing ones without causing a tangled mess of code. Components like models and controllers can be reused across the application, reducing redundancy and saving development time. MVC makes it easier for multiple developers to work on the same project since each component's role is well defined. And the separation of concerns in MVC simplifies unit testing, making it easier to test individual components in isolation. In summary, the MVC architecture is a powerful approach for building Flutter applications, providing a clear structure for your code and helping you create maintainable, scalable, and well organized applications. With a good understanding of MVC, let's dive into our to-do application and see how it's structured. So we begin with the to-do application by structuring our Flutter project. So how can we structure our Flutter project with the MVC architecture? So I'll be just creating three directories. So the first will be models, where our project models will be added in this directory, and the other one will be controllers. All the controllers of this application will be stored in this controller directory, and the last one, which is view, all the views, all the screens will be stored in our views directory. So to begin with, we will be just creating our model and the controllers and then the view section. So let's just begin with our model. So I'll be just creating a file here, which will be to do models dot dot to do model dot dot, and here I'll be just creating the model, which will be class to do, and now I'll be just creating a final string for my ID, where by this ID we can create a new to do or a new item, and we can also delete it with the help of this ID. So the next, it will be the title. So a to do need a title for creating a to do. So for that I'll be just creating a title, which will be final string title. That's it. So now we also require the status of this to do. If this to do is completed or not. Based on this variable, we can just show the status of our to do, whether it is completed or not. If it is completed, just check on it. So for that we will be creating a boolean variable is completed. So now we will be just creating the constructor of our this class. So we will be just creating that, which will be the to do, which will be required this dot id, required this dot title, and required this dot is complete. So that's it. We have just created our model. With the help of this model, we will just create a to do and show it in our screen. So now let's just move towards the controller section. So now we will be just creating a controller here, which will be to do controller.dart. And here we will be just creating a class and extend it with GetX controller to use the GetX functionalities or the methods of which will be to do controller, and we will be just extending it with GetX controller. And that's it. Now we will be just creating a method, which will be one for creating a to do, and the other will be just deleting a to do, and the third one will be checking the status of our to do. So we will be just creating a list from our model first, final list, and which the list will be the type of our to do. And we had just imported our model class here, and now we will be just creating a to do. To do's is equal to to do type of list, and it will be the obs, which will be the observe. This list will be observable list basically. So that's it. Now we will be just move towards our function of adding a to do. So I'll be just creating a void function which will be add to do, and I'll be just adding a string, which by this we can be able to add a title into it. So that's it. Now I'll be just creating that, which will be final new to do, and that will take the instance from our model and create a new to do for us. So now for a new to do, we need an ID, a title, and is completed. So we will be just providing them. So the ID will be just coming from this date and time dot now, and will be the to string. That's it. We have just created a ID which will be basically unique for every new creation of a to do. So now we will be just making this false by default. So every time we create a to do, so the status will be not completed. Basically it will be false. So from now we have just created a to-do, and now we need to add this new to-do into our this list basically we have just created here. So for that we will be just calling our this to-dos dot add, and now we will be just adding this new to-do, and that's it. Now we will be just update using this update function to just rebuild the screen when a new to-do is created. So now we have just created a add function where we can be able to add a to-do into our create a to-do basically. So now we will be also creating a function to delete a to-do from this create, where we can also be able to delete the to-do which we have just created. So for that I'll be just using the delete to-do, which will be delete to-do, and I'll be just adding the string and the ID, and we will be just checking on the basis of ID, and on the basis of that ID we will be deleting the to-do. So we will be just using the to-dos, and we will be using the list functionality, which will be to-dos dot remove, and we will be using to-do dot remove where basically, so to check what the ID. So for that, to do dot remove where, and we will be checking the ID basically, which will be to do, and we will be checking the ID basically from to do dot ID, and is equal to this ID, the parameter ID which is coming from here, and we are done. Now we will be just calling our update function here, and that's it. We have just implemented a delete function. So now we will be just creating another function for checking the status of our to-do. So we will be just creating a function which will be toggle to-do status, and I'll be just taking the string ID, and then we will be just creating a final to-do is equal to to-dos dot first, and now we will be checking first where using the list functionality, and we will be checking the ID if the to-do ID is equal to this ID, so just change the status. So we'll be just doing that, which will be coming from this to-do, and this to-do dot ID is equal to this ID, then just change the status to-do dot is completed is equal to not to-do. So basically it will never be the same, it will always be the opposite of our is completed. So that's it. Now I'll be just using the update to refresh the screen if the status has been changed. So yeah, we are done with the controller part, and now we will be just moving towards our view model. So we will be just creating a new file for our views, so which will be to do view dot dart, and that's it. So we will be just calling this view basically into our main.dart. So I'll be just creating it first, which will be a stateless widget, which will be to do view, and now we will be just uh, using our scaffold widget here, which will be a scaffold, and in the scaffold we will be just adding app bar, which is app bar, and I'll be using the title as a to-do list. To-do list, and that's it. Now I'll be just using the body property and just designing our page. So for the if we are using our GetX package. So if we want that our screen should be refreshed by using this update, so we need to start or wrap all of our cores inside the get builder. So for that reason we will be just using the get builder, and get builders needs a controller basically. So we will be just returning list view. So we want to show our to-dos in form of list, so we will be just using our list view builder, which will be list view dot builder, and it requires an item builder. So let me just provide that, and that's it. Now I'll be just returning list style basically. So here you go, we will be just using the list style, and that's it. So now we need some kind of item count. So how many items should be shown in the on the screen? So I'll be just giving it the length of our list basically. So I'll be just providing the class from which class controller we are getting the data. So what will be the to do controller, and that's it. Now I'll be able to get the functions of my to do controller class. So now I'll be just accessing that list, and just I'll be using the item count, which will be item count and controller dot to do dot length. So that's it, whatever length will be, so we will be just getting that. So basically I'll be just adding all the list into my uh, variable. So I'll be just able to access it easily. So I'll be using this to do, which will be is equal to controller dot to do, and whatever index will be, and that's it. Now we are good to go by just adding this. So we will be just basically initializing our controller at the top. So we will be just doing that also, which will be the final to do controller is equal to get dot port to start our controller, which will be to do controller, and that's it. So we will be just creating a text editing controller to for while we will be just adding that title to our my text form field. So we will be just creating a text editing controller for that, which will be text editing controller title controller is equal to text editing controller, and that's it. So now we will be just using them in our view. So we will be just designing our page by using the list tile. So in the list tile we will be just adding a title. So the title will be the text basically. So it will be coming from our to-do list, which will be to do dot title. And now we will be just using the leading property of our list style, which we will be adding a checkbox here. So by according to the status of our to do, if it is completed, so just add a check on that. So we will be just using the value here. Okay, we will be just adding the value, which will be to do dot is completed. And now we will be just adding the on change property of this check function, which is required. So we will be just implementing that. So we will be just getting that uh, we will be using the controller dot toggle to do status. We have that function basically. So we are now checking that status. So that's it. We have just use the checkbox in the leading property of our list style. So if the value is true, so according to that, just show it on the screen. So yeah, now we need an icon button for deleting that, so we will be just creating that too. So in the trailing property of our list style, we will be just using the icon button. So we need an icon, which will be icons.delete, and I'll be using the const keyword to remove the warning, and in my on pressed function, I'll be just calling my that delete function from our controller. So we will be just using that controller and dot delete to do, and we are getting the ID from the list. That's it. So I'll be just saving this, and now I'll be just calling my this to do view into my main.dart. So I'll be just removing this home screen from here basically, and I'll be just calling my to do view, and now I'll be just saving that, or we will be just auto restarting it. So let's just see what will we be getting, and let's just move towards our screen again, which will be to do view, and I'll be just rerunning my application at which will be, so yeah, let's just want to create a new to do. For that we want a button which we will be just implementing it and using the floating action button here. So which will be a floating action button, the floating action button, and in the on press section we will be just implementing that function outside of this. So we will be using the function and starting the get alert box. So we will be just adding the child here. In the child section, I'll be just adding an icon, and the icon will be icons dot head. I'll be making this const, and that's it. Now let's just create that function. Basically I'll be just creating that function, which will be show add to do dialog, and that's it. I'll be just creating this function outside of this, so which will be basically void hey show to do dialog, and I'll be just creating this, and we will be using the get default dialog box here, and in this default dialog box we will be just adding a title, which will be giving a title which will be add new to do, and now we need in the content section we will be just adding a text form field to enter a title, or basically a to do, which will be the text form field, and in the text form field we will be just providing the controller which we have just created, which was title controller. So let's just go to the top and see what was the controller basically. So yeah, so let's just make this controller outside of this class basically. So I'll be just removing this const, and we will be just getting that controller. So yeah, great. Now we will be just decorating our this text form field a bit. So we will be just using the input decoration here, and we will be using the label of our decoration property, which will be to do title, and I'll be using the const here to remove the warnings, and that's it. So we are done by decorating the text form field, and now we will be just using the text and adding the button. With the text cancel button will be cancel, and the text confirm button will be head. Text confirm, it will be head. And now we will be just implementing if the confirm button is clicked, so we will be just performing some actions. So on confirm we will be just creating a function here, and we will be just adding the final input in text is equal to title controller dot text. So whatever text the user types, it will be just stored in her new variable, which will be our this input text. And now we will be just checking some condition. If input text is not empty, then do some kind of actions and head our to do this new to do into our to do list, which will be to do controller dot head to do and the input text to the title. And now when it is headed, so just get back, so just pop, basically to go back to the screen. So when I now save this, so we will be just removing this const we are getting. So now when I'll be just auto restarting this, so yeah, now in place of this material, if we need to use the get material, so we are using some kind of GetX utilities like snack bar and all. So for that we need to use the get material basically. So I'll be auto restarting that again. So we have changed the material here, so let's just auto restart it. So now that's done. Now I'll be just clicking my head button, so we will be getting a dialog box. So it in the dialog box we need to add a title, so it will be the test, and I'll be just clicking this add button. And yeah, see our to do has been created. So when I click this, we have got the checkbox, and let's just add that functionality. If this is checked, so it will be just aligned through the title. So let's just go to the view again, coming here basically, and just add a style, and which will be text style, and we will be using the decoration. And in the decoration now we will be just adding a condition. If to do dot is completed, if it is true, then just do something, just text decoration dot line through, and else just decorate it for none dot none. And that's it. Now I'll be just saving this, and you will see a line through on it. So let's just delete this, and yeah, our to do has been deleted. So this, let's just create it again, and that's it. Our task is completed. We will be just clicking it, and there's it is completed. And now we can also delete that. Now that we have explored the MVC pattern and our to-do application, What do you think about this structured approach to building a Flutter application? Share your thoughts and questions in the comment below. Don't forget to join our WhatsApp channel, WhatsApp group, and follow me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and GitHub for more updates and discussions. That's wrap for this episode. We have learned about the MVC pattern and applied it to create a to-do application. In the upcoming episodes, we will continue to explore GetX and other exciting Flutter features. So stay tuned and keep coding with Flutter.